In this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2, Kirito and Sinon finally come clean about their bloody pasts. But first, check this out. Are you feeling wacky on tobacco looking like Chewbacca? Well, say no and get ready to look like Han Solo with the Executive Razor from Dollar Shave Club. This razor has 6 high-quality razor blades with a moisturizing strip, and you can check it out at dollarshaveclub.com/SKG. Shave time, shave money. The 4 words which best describe this week's episode of SAO 2 would be badass robot horse. Yes, my friends, robot horses make anime epic. Just take a look at G Gundam. It's a series about people who pilot giant robots who, in turn, can ride on gigantic robotic horses. It's some sort of crazy mathematical equation that doesn't exist in real life, but if you put a robot horse in an anime series, it's awesome. Especially when you got Death Gun riding right on top of him, which is followed by an action scene that looks like something straight out of a big-budget Hollywood movie. I liked this episode a lot. I loved it mostly for all of the cool Death Gun imagery, especially that one scene where Sinon finally gets over all of her bullshit and decides to fire. She misses, but conveniently hits this bus, which continues to explode and erupts in fire, and I just love the imagery of Death Gun there. It was very creepy and incredibly ominous. But the main thing about this week's episode is Sinon and Kirito finally reveal their pasts to each other, and this is going to be very important for their development because they're incredibly similar to each other. They're both murderers, in a sense. They've killed people, and they've been trying to get over it in their very own different ways. Kirito is still sort of fresh in his mind. It's only been a short time since he's been away from SAO, and he sort of forced himself to forget all about these situations altogether. Whereas Sinon lives with this shit every single day. She's constantly having to try and fight it and to become stronger. That's why she goes into GGO all the time. However, at the beginning of this week's episode, after she was attacked by Death Gun and then seemingly saved by Kirito, we all knew that was going to happen, she suddenly started getting freaked out again and she couldn't even fire a gun in GGO anymore. And obviously, this whole Death Gun situation and Kirito getting involved has really sort of messed with her head a little bit. And it makes for this really intense scene at the very end of the episode where she completely breaks down in front of him. And you think it's going to turn into this, like, real tender moment where Kirito's going to start hugging her and it's going to be fine, everything's going to be good. No, she rejects that shit, continues to cry and sob and just talk about her past. And you can obviously see another element about her past that's interesting when they get into it, where not only is she upset over the fact that she's killed someone, but she has to deal with the stigma of other people who've known what she has done. And obviously, we all know that children can be incredibly cruel, and obviously she had tough times making friends, everybody just thought she was a crazy murderer, and it leads to a lot of ridiculous imagery with her standing in the dark and looking at blood on her hands. Very, very disturbing. But at least we got some action this week. But I'm not going to try and sweep all that under the rug. Let's get serious again. Kirito finally decides to tell Sinon as well that he was indeed an SAO survivor. He sort of just hinted at that earlier, but it was pretty obvious that she sort of knew. But he goes on to explain again the whole situation where they tried to ambush Laughing Coffin. It didn't work. And at the very end of the episode, it looks like they're getting ready to start up a flashback where it looks like it actually might be Kirito fighting against who would be Death Gun in this series. Although you can't tell because they don't show his face and it just ends right there. And I love that Sword Art Online is a series that does not do previews for their episodes, because that keeps you in suspense the entire time and it won't ruin anything. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2? Pretty freaking tubular right here, my friends. This episode pretty much had it all, and it was one of those episodes, too, that just flew right by, especially in the second half, and that's probably because the first half of the episode was so strong, with Kirito finally coming in and deciding to help, and he even recalls about that other person that he ran into who is known as Gunner X, or actually they're known as Musketeer X, I believe, and it's just this weird-looking crazy chick who he killed off-screen. No big deal. But what's really awesome is they had that scene where they get onto the motorbikes and they're starting to go away, and there's this robot horse just sitting there. The minute I saw that, I'm like, the intro of the show, Death Gun rides a horse, shit's about to get real, and it looks awesome. There's just something about the image of a skull-faced, hooded person on a freaking horse that just reminds me of Sleepy Hollow and gives off this like Halloween feeling, and it also just makes it seem so scary and disturbing. And obviously the fear is amplified because Sinon can't fire, she's freaking out. Kirito's trying to get her like shit to calm down. It's a really intense scene, and even though of course she missed, it was really awesome how she was able to hit that truck and it still sort of like sent him flying, but he was able to jump off his horse. Although I hope this isn't the end of Robot Horse. You were definitely one of my favorite parts about this week's episode. Otherwise, technical stuff like the animation, the artwork, the voice acting, the music, you know it's all top quality stuff. This is Sword Art Online 2, and every episode looks beautiful. I also really love the fact that they've been focusing on GGO lately and staying in this one area, because in the first half of the series, there was a lot of build-up for the characters, although, in a way, that's allowed me to appreciate Sinon as a character a lot more, especially when compared to some of the female characters from the first season of Sword Art Online. Don't get me wrong, I love them. I'm a huge fan of Asuna, mostly because I think she's friggin' gorgeous. But Sinon just seems a little deeper. Getting to see her development and just getting to see her as a real person in the beginning before she went into the game has allowed her to become, I think, a more interesting character. At least to me, anyway. And I pray to God she doesn't fall in love with Kirito like every other female in the series, although it almost seems inevitable at this point. Because even though she hates Kirito, she still has room to lay on his lap when she's angry, which is kind of strange, but whatever. This is still just another really great episode with incredible production value, a little bit of action, and some tense moments between the main characters of the series. And I'm not really sure where they're going to be going with the rest of this. I don't know if they're going to be cutting up the seasons like they did with Sword Art Online, where the first half is like its own game and the second half is another game altogether. Because I know that this series is based on a group of light novels, which I barely even know what light novels are, so I've definitely not read them at all. I just assume maybe they're like fancier novels or some shit. But still, the point is, I can't wait to see what else they're going to do with Sword Art Online. I don't know if they're going to stay in GGO the entire time, because it almost seems like we're getting kind of close to like the end of the climax, like figuring out who Death Gun is, and maybe that's going to open up something entirely, because, you know, he's just one member of Laughing Coffin. And thank you to all my commenters who've actually let me know, because I was a little confused about how many surviving members of the group there are, and there's a good handful of them, so they could do a lot with them, and I'd like to see more of that in the future, especially the way they've been building them up with the all the little, like, you know, seeds they were planting in the first season, and the fact that we got Death Gun right now, who is just an incredible villain. He's so mysterious and awesome, and he doesn't even have to say anything, and he's so incredibly intimidating and charismatic. I love villains like that. They're so memorable, and he just looks cool. You know, he's a skull guy with glowing eyes who rides a robotic horse. That's metal as shit. So, I liked this episode. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Not perfect, a little slow in the second half of the episode, and I would have liked if we got a little more of a follow-up on that flashback that's getting ready to start with Kirito and who Death Gun might possibly be. And like I've said a million times before in these reviews, it's like a 90% chance, I imagine, it's going to be that one member of the group who had the skull mask, because skull equals skull. So, 4 out of 5. Check it out, fans of the series. Great episode. Thank you guys for watching my review today. Before you leave, make sure to hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up. And make sure to tell me what you guys thought about this week's episode of Sword Art Online 2. Did you have a favorite scene? What did you think of Sinon finally breaking down in front of Kirito? And who is Death Gun? Please tell me with your comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. And stay tuned this entire month. It's Pokemon month, so I'm going to be doing a lot of Pokemon themed videos. You can already check out the first one at the very end of the video. And you guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links for both of those in the description box below.
Do you like Amazon.com? I know I do. Corey and I now have an Amazon link in our video description box below. And if you go to it and buy anything through Amazon.com, it will support our channel. So bookmark that link, make it happen, and support our channel without having to do a damn thing.
Another great way you guys can help support our channel is by donating directly through our PayPal link in the description box below. We recommend $2 a month, although this is completely optional. But the best way to go about this is by sneaking into your mom's room and taking $2. This way, she won't even notice. And we won't have to shake you up for all of your lunch money. So guys, that concludes this review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.